Independent National Electoral Commission has clarified the rationale for the dates set for the 2027 general elections following stakeholders' concerns over potential clashes with national holidays. In a statement issued on February 13, 2026, the Commission said the timetable complies with the 1999 Constitution, the Electoral Act 2022, and INEC's regulations. Under current rules, presidential and National Assembly elections are scheduled for Saturday, February 20, 2027, while governorship and state houses of assembly elections will be held 2 weeks later on Saturday, March 6, 2027. INEC acknowledged concerns about overlapping holidays and said consultations are ongoing. The Commission may seek legislative adjustments if necessary, assuring that any changes will remain constitutionally compliant and will support voter participation and credible elections. Joining us now to unpack the developments is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Barrister Tunji Abdulhameed. Barrister Abdulhameed, thank you very much for joining us. You are welcome. Barrister, let's begin by asking from a legal... Yes, we can hear you. Let's ask from a legal standpoint, Barrister. How does the Constitution guide the scheduling now of national elections, and what legal issues arise if election dates conflict with statutory holidays?
I think the guidelines of the INEC are made pursuant to the provision of the Constitution. You know, Section 153 of the Constitution created the INEC, and Section 160 gave INEC the power to make its own rules and regulations. While the Section 28 of the Electoral Act stated that INEC must release timetable not later than 360 days before election. So if you look at it, that is 1 year before the next election. So in line with that, INEC has released its timetable for that election. So they are governed by law, and they've acted in line with the law. But the concerns are being raised regarding Ramadan prayer schedule. Ramadan will start around the 18th or so of this month. Next year. Will start around 7th of February. So it will fall within the election period. And people are saying, look, that election preparation and other things is very stressful. So people who are fasting may not have the energy to be able to participate very well. So in that regard, they are asking that INEC should reconsider its stand and reschedule the election, which I think is a genuine concern. And INEC in that regard is trying to look at it and then see whether or not anything can be done. I'm not aware there's any legal implication. If INEC wants to change the date, there won't be any legal implication because we have, for so many years, elections have been postponed due to one reason or the other. So if you want to postpone the date of election, in as long as it's not less than the announcement is not less than one year, then there's not INEC changing it or refusing it will not have any legal implications. So if you want a participation, full or no excuse from anybody, I think INEC should consider the request by people who say, look, this period of Ramadan will not allow so many people to participate effectively. You remember before the election, it's not only on the day of election. Before election, there will be serious campaign, and a few weeks to the election, that is the time when most politicians or political party will want to carry out the last run of campaign. So, and if they are fasting, so many people will not be able to participate. And you see, when we say transparency and accountability, when we say we want free and fair election, it must be done in a way that nobody will feel that have been targeted. Because I've heard people say that, look, it was fixed deliberately during Ramadan so that people from the north, I'm telling you, what I've heard from people, that they are targeting people from the north, knowing fully well that they'll be fasting and they will not be able to participate fully. So in that regard, to avoid that excuses or reasons for any fear of what's it called, a compromise, I think INEC should consider it. Unfortunately, INEC has also said they will look at it.
Abdulhameed, yes. I want to jump to another bit here. Thank you for the response there, but let's talk about transparency and accountability. You just spoke about that. While the past week has seen plenty of people talk about the legalese when it comes to the reforms and also advocacy for the terminologies being used, there's also the case of transparency here, and I'm wondering what legal measures exist to ensure that the transparency and accountability that we so earnestly seek for in Nigeria's electoral process actually takes place, especially come 2027? What legal structures are in place?
Yeah, I think what is in place now, people are not satisfied with it. People have concern regarding the language used, bearing in mind the position of the Supreme Court at the last 2023. You know, what will have the major area of concern for people has to do with election result transmission or transfer or collation of results. Collation has been major issue where people complain that, look, whenever they collate, that's where they do the miracle. The changes will happen, the alterations. So, and to afford those alterations, they are saying, look, the issue of IREF must be made compulsory, bearing in mind that the Supreme Court at the last, during the tribunal or challenge of the last election results, the Supreme Court said, look, the INEC has no, has its discretion to either comply with it or not, and that guideline of INEC is not binding, which is for me, like I said, I have my reservation on that. If a regulation is made pursuant to provision of the Constitution, that regulation is classified as a secondary legislation. That is what they call delegated legislation. So a delegated legislation is a law, and it should be binding. The Supreme Court, in their own wisdom, said it's not binding. So people said, look, to avoid those similar situations, we want a law that will back IREF, in other words, transmission of results through the IREF, so that people will be able to see it, and then you'll be able to verify it with what has been sent from the polling units. Because by the time you finish at the polling unit, you collect the results. By the time it gets to the collation center, it will become a different thing. And when people say, look, you must get agents, let your agent be there. It's not so when it comes to collation. I am a participant. When you get to the collation center, the police and the thugs of the government in power in that state, or people in authority in that state, will send everybody out, except those who want to participate in the evil deed they want to do. So
now,
me,
I like that you've talked about. I like that you've talked about the security agencies that are used for election matters here. So I'm wondering how effective the current laws are in addressing security challenges during elections, including the violence that we see and also the intimidation.
Yeah, you see, there's no law which empowers the police to participate or be involved in the manipulation. But because we are in a country where everybody, especially the security agency, they see themselves as part of the ruling government. Or whenever the government in power, when I say ruling government, whether in that state, if you have APC controlling the state, or you have PDP, or the PDP has an upper hand in a particular state, the police will want to align with them and work with them. So, in other words, our police have not been fair, and that's one of the reasons why we have not been getting a free and fair election. They have been partitioned. They support a particular party of their choice. It need not be a ruling party. It depends on where they belong. So if the law is there. In fact, to prevent police from manipulating, they said police should not carry gun at the polling unit. But you see, notwithstanding, when it comes to collation center, you see police with armed policemen. They will come and just chase everybody out. It happened last election. I remember in Kwara State, we were chased out of the collation center and then everything was become a different thing thereafter. So for me, until the police decide to say, look, we are neutral, we are acting neutral, and we are not good, until people are being punished for compromise, then we won't get a different result. So what we need to be doing is to punish people who have not been cooperating or who have been compromising on the electoral process. By that, probably the police too, if they are also taking to court for compromise, probably they will change.
All right then, Abdulhameed.
We have not been punishing people.
I hear you there, Abdulhameed, a totally neutral police and, of course, penalties for defaulters. But Abdulhameed, from a legal standpoint, once again, what are the consequences of failing to comply with election timelines set by INEC?
If you fail to comply with the timeline, particularly regarding the timing as to it must be 1 year before election. If you fail to do that, that means the election has been, you can no longer, the date you fix, we have to make it 1 year. So if you fail to comply, that means you have started a compromise, and then you have breached the law, and that would affect the validity of that election. So the INEC is trying to ensure that. But if you have fixed the date, what would be an offense here is not for you to have a date that is not up to 1 year. If the date is above 1 year, I'm not sure there's no offense in that one. So as it is now, INEC is still in line to do regarding the guidelines. So the guideline, as far as I'm concerned, what we need to do again is for us to make it sure that this guideline is not only as INEC like, it must have a force of law. Until it has a force of law, we may not be able to get it right, because the training of the INEC will bring out guideline, and in the middle of the game, they will change it, and the court will say they have the right. That will affect our transparency, because you cannot change the rule in the middle of the game. And that's what happened last election when the INEC said there's a glitch, and then they changed. The INEC promised that in their guideline the IRF will be used, but thereafter they changed, and the Supreme Court gave them the power and said, look, they have the right to change, because and that's why people are saying that, look, we need transmission. Everybody wants to see it the way it goes. When you finish, scan it, send it to the IRF, and let's follow it. So IRF also has the force of law. So when we have all this in place, then we'll get the right process. We'll be fair and fair election, and to be transparent. Even after all, we say justice must not only be done, it must be seen to have been done. So people will be satisfied that the right thing has been done.
Abdulhameed, Nigeria has come under severe scrutiny and attention when it comes to the international community. So I'm wondering how our laws would regulate foreign involvement in domestic security or electoral matters, and what are the implications?
Can we have a law that would regulate foreign intervention? We also monitor elections outside the country, and our law allows for observer to be there. So if foreign people are coming to observe and then they're involved in our electoral system, we cannot shut them out, because like I said earlier on, if you are saying you are doing the right thing or you are being transparent, let everybody see it. It must be seen by everybody, not only for people around. So the world is a global world, and everybody can participate. So as long as they are not dictating to us as to telling us this is what should be done, and we're following them or controlling our law in line with their own interests, then they will be right to participate or to even be involved as an observer or whatever in the process. So I do not see how we can make law to prevent them from regulating from following the electoral process. They have the right to, in the interest of transparency and fair play.
And how can public communities by agencies like INEC, communications rather, by agencies like INEC improve voter confidence and participation? This has been a very big conversation, because every single year we come here and talk about confidence in INEC and also participation, but what can they do now that the timetable has been put out 1 year? What is that good for?
It's to be more transparent and more accountable to people. It's to be to open to people and let people see that they are truly independent. Because a situation whereby you see INEC say this today and then next tomorrow it changes his position, it will not go well. INEC must not, like I said, you must not only say you are transparent. Let people see your transparency. Our system, for me, as far as our system is concerned, INEC is not independent, because a situation where INEC will be at the bed and corner of the people in government. In other words, in terms of asking for money, the money has to be released by the president or by the executive. And then in that regard, INEC will be it's not only on his own. So we need to make them financially independent, so that they will not nobody will be able to control them. But unfortunately, look at the appointment of INEC chairman. He's been appointed by the president, subject to the confirmation by the Senate. But notwithstanding, in Nigeria, what we see is that once you are giving an appointment to somebody, their loyalty is not to the country. The loyalty is to that person. They see it as benefit or as giving them opportunity to serve, and therefore they must also return the favor. So for me, INEC must show that, look, even though I was appointed by the president, and my loyalty is to the country, not to an individual. And in that regard, it must be shown in their art and in their attitude and in whatever they do. A situation whereby they will start an election somewhere, some people will not have, there won't be, what's it called? They won't start on time. There will be failure of card readers or whatever. Should not be should be a thing of the past. And then we know. You see, the politicians, they've identified that, look, the idea of stealing ballot boxes is no longer in vogue, and that's why what they do now is to see how they can manipulate and change result after election. And that was what you see in Kogi State in some years ago and some other part of the country. So to avoid that, people are saying, let's be transparent enough. Let's IRF be part of our electoral process. Let it as a legal backing, and let us have a real-time transmission, which I believe is possible if we are truly interested in it.
Abdulhameed, indeed, we need more transparency. Thank you very much, Abdulhameed, Barrister Abdulhameed, for joining us for the 12 o'clock bulletin here and your submissions. Thank you.